Hello, everyone. Welcome to the I Am Him podcast. I am Jamal, your host, and we're here today to have another great conversation. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Jamal, and welcome to the I Am Him podcast. We have another panel of great gentlemen today. Some here before. Actually, I believe we've all been here before. Welcome back, gentlemen. Welcome back. I'll let each one of them introduce themselves and who they are, and then we'll get right into our questions. Starting with my man over here, Coach James. Now I'll let him introduce himself.
Cool beans. I'm James, father of 7 beautiful kids. Actually, I have 2 stepkids too, so, for the record. But,
Big
natural
family.
and unnatural, 9 people I'm responsible for on some levels. Business owner, fitness enthusiast, just all around fun guy.
All right. And starting or keeping it going around the circle, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, my name is Deandre Official. I got 3 wonderful children. So I think I've been a father for about 8 years. So my oldest is 8.
It's like I'm thinking.
About 8 years, right?
No, I forget my birthdays too, so don't trip. Like, how old are you now?
I'm an artist. I rap, make music, create content, do freelance video editing and photo shoots. So I got my hands in a lot of different areas. I'm an author, wrote a book 2 years ago. So hands in a lot of different areas on top of being a father and a husband. So, I love entering into spaces like this to, let the truth be told about what goes on behind the scenes with men like us.
For sure. All right.
So my name is Edmond, and to be honest, I'm learning how it is to be like what a man is. To be honest, like it's definitely a learning curve for sure.
100%.
Like I knew it was hard. I didn't know it was this hard, but looking forward to it still.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great introductions, gentlemen. Thank you very much, every one of you. Thank you for being here. I know it took a lot for some of you to get here, and just to take the time out of your day to come here and talk about this is great. Let's go ahead and get into the questions. I think you had the first one, James.
I do, man. So we want to know, like, what steps did you take to start to mend and heal a relationship with your sons?
All right. Well, for some of you who don't know, I have 2 now adult sons. At the time were teenage boys, and one of the things that I always taught them was whenever your relationship is done, don't ever cheat on your spouse. Let them know and walk away. It's easier and better for everybody to just let that person go. And I didn't technically heed my own advice. Actually, I didn't. I ended up cheating on my wife in 2018, had an affair, and as a result, my sons were devastated behind it, and our relationships grew strenuous because my sons, more than anything, were everything in my life. I got up to go to work because of my kids. Not so much as my wife, I do, but my children were everything to me. I live and die for my kids, took them everywhere I wanted to, or did everything I wanted to with them. So when I cheated, they kind of looked at me as like a liar. Like, bro, you've been here for like telling us to do this for like 20 years, and now you gonna cheat on mom, and that's it. My oldest, he took it. My oldest wanted to fight me. Wow. He wanted to fight me. My youngest, he semi-understood or tried to understand. He's still angry with me to this day about certain things. But one thing that I understood that I had to do was to humble myself and not come with the your mama this, your mama that, your mama did this, the relationship was this. It was to recognize that they were hurt and that I didn't give them or do what I told them I would do as a man. To be responsible, and if you're really ready to go. Like it, I was still being selfish. Honestly, I didn't want my family to leave, or I didn't want to lose my family, but I still wanted to do what I wanted to do. So, yeah, these are some things that were difficult for me to humble myself, because I'm a very prideful person. To not talk to my sons and let them say all the things that how they were disappointed in me and how I did this and I did that, and not to sit there and rebut it or refute it and just listen.
Yeah.
It took a lot. Like, there was times I wanted to say, like, who the do you think you talking to? Like, and I really had to humble myself and be like, yeah, I deserve all of this. Whether or not they understand the ins and outs of our relationships, of me and their mother's relationship, the trust that they put in me to now they're looking like, is anything that my dad told me worth listening to? Should I still do the things, be respectful to women? Should I still care that a woman does this? With the relationship that I've seen with my mom and dad, should I still do and be respectful to women, knowing that what they had and what they did? So the biggest thing was for me to listen. The second thing was to give them time to just like, to hurt, to come back and want to say, hey, Dad, like, we need to talk, or hey, Dad, like, now we can start hanging out again or talking. But I literally had to give them time to say, hey, when you're ready to talk, when you're ready to come. And I wasn't just sitting back, not doing anything. I was still, hey, how you doing today, son? I didn't change.
Still showing up.
Yeah, I was still being there as their father.
Yeah.
But even when they was like, fuck, I mean, when they was like, yeah, I don't care. Like, you can't talk to me. You can't tell me anything. I'm like, bro, I was still your father for 20 years or 18 of those years. I made one mistake, but that doesn't negate the other 17 years that I was in your life showing you what you were supposed to do. Everybody makes mistakes. But again, I'm here. I don't hopefully want to be punished for the rest of my life for that one mistake. But if that's the way you want to take it until you're ready, I have nothing to say. You absolutely have every right to change what this relationship is. And I couldn't say anything about it. Eventually they came back and were like, hey, Dad, I don't forgive you. I understand. I can, now that I'm an adult, a little later on and trying to understand your relationships or how things happen, I can understand. I don't condone. I don't prescribe. I wish you never did, but I understand the circumstances. And we can move past that, but don't ever do it again. And I can't say anything other than, okay, son, or sons, or whoever, or no problem, I got you. But that's how the best way I know knew to work out the relationship after I lost the trust my sons gave me. I don't know if I've actually earned all of it back. I don't know if I ever will, but I still actively every day try to show my sons what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And again, I made a mistake, but it doesn't change who I am.
So, where are you guys now in the healing process? Because it's been some time, and I know the hurt can last for a long time, but like, have you had any like recent conversations or check-ins with your boys? Like, hey, how you doing, sons? Like, have you revisited this space to see where you are in that process in terms of healing and forgiveness from them?
I don't think we've ever really talked about the situation. I mean, we did, but after that day, it really hasn't come up as another conversation. Occasionally, my youngest would tell me like, yeah, he'll revisit certain things like my wife does, and like, oh, that's why you did this that day. And I'll be like, yeah, and it brings up a tough conversation that I don't want to have. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times we haven't really had that. But what it has done is allowed me to, when my sons and I have disagreements and arguments now, it allows me to, again, step back and humble myself that not only am I his father, but now he's an adult. Now I don't control his life. Now I don't like his beefs and his gripes with me as a person. I need to listen to now as an adult, as his father. Now that he's an adult, when he tells me, hey, I don't like this about you. This is what you do that I don't like about you. before that, those conversations never really came up. So now with
Gotcha.
this incident allowed those types of conversations to happen. Not that we didn't want them to. They probably did, but they were still kids, so it was you don't care what you like about me.
Right.
But now that they're adults, they can have these conversations. We're in a better space. My youngest still kind of is like, you can't tell me anything about relationships. I'm like, okay, you'll learn the hard way. I might, again, I did what I did, but doesn't mean that I don't have some good advice for you. As a matter of fact, you should look at what I did do and don't do it.
Right.
I'm not saying that me and my wife's relationship is perfect. It's like everybody else's. It has its ups and downs. But my youngest tends to have you can't tell me about relationships because you didn't do what you said you were gonna do, and which I sort of be like, yeah, okay, but then like I said, hard head make for a soft ass. So he eventually gonna learn.
He sounds like he's still healing in a way.
He is.
Because literally one mistake, but you got like 20 years in the game, or whatever that number is.
Yeah.
And so he's just, that's what I hear.
It does seem like, or excuse me, like I said, I do see that he's still hurting about it, and either he doesn't know how or isn't ready to let it go yet. But like I said, I still don't change who I am as his father. I don't not give him advice. I tell him, hey, you can listen to this or take it or leave it, but you're still my child, and I still have your best interests at heart always. So you can listen to what I have to say or don't, but I'm still gonna say it, and you can keyhole it somewhere and put it back in the safe. And 15 years from now, when you have your own kids and and you seeing them like, oh, my dad did tell me that one day. Like my granny or my mama did say that one day. Just keep it in your safe, lock it away. You might not listen to me now, but 15 years from now, it might come in handy. So
about how long did it take for you to kind of get to that place from the incident? From the day the incident happened, about how long did it take you to get to the place of like, I'm not gonna try to press them on forgiving me no more. I'm not gonna try to make them. Oh yeah.
Until their mama did, they didn't. Until their mother, and regardless of what I did, until their mother started to show, which was about 2 years. But until their mother started to show that, hey, I can forgive him, I can allow him back into my life.
It kind of set the example.
Yeah. Until then, they were like, yeah, whatever. I mean, they were still there, and it was hard for them. They were like, I want to love you, but I'm supposed to hate you at the same time. I'm not supposed to like you right now. Even though that's true, they weren't supposed to. If they would have just accepted my behavior, I probably would have cheated again. But to see my sons hurt, to see my wife hurt,
That's tough.
to see them like literally, it hurt me to see them hurt. You calling me a cheater doesn't bother me. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I keep telling people, I don't care what other people think about me. Unless you sleeping with me or you paying me, care less what you think about me. But honestly. 100%. But my children, they not sleeping with me. But you get it. They my family. They're my sons.
They're a part of you.
I cared what they thought about me. I cared that they saw me as a failure, as a failed individual that didn't keep their word, and that hurt me. Yeah. My wife too. It wasn't that I hurt her, like the cheating. It was that I hurt her.
Yeah.
That she's terribly hurt behind my actions. Not that she's mad that I did it, but that she's sitting here physically like in pain because I cheated. Yeah. And that put me, that messed up my whole world, bro. My kids, not like for real, like to this day, thinking about my sons being hurt and angry with me, to this day it bothers me, bro. And that's it. They're my everything. And to know that they were disappointed in me, it was like, I don't ever want to do this again, bro. I don't care if she rubbing on my ready to like. I don't know. I'm never cheating on my wife again, bro. Like it's not. We gonna get a divorce before that happens. Like because again, I can't put them through that pain again.
Yeah.
And now that I have 4 more in my life that like they tell on each one of us. My daughters saw like the guy was talking to my daughters, or excuse me, my wife, just random dude, just and my daughters was like, "Yo, bro, who are you?" Do you know my uncle? Like, my sons was like, hey, my daughter came home was like, uncle was talking to another woman and he was there. I was like, I wasn't. It wasn't like that, baby. And then my son was like, no, he was like, he was just, she was trying to, and so I'm telling you, bro, it's not going down.
Like, baby, I'm just ordering Starbucks. I just wanted that's the only woman I was talking to.
I promise you, it was something as trivial as that.
Oh man!
And so my young ones ain't even gonna let me slide, bro. So I can't. When you care, honestly, when you care about the feelings of your mate, it stops you and prevents you from doing a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It makes you swallow. If you care, it makes you swallow your pride. It's gonna make you do the extra for that person. Hopefully, they're willing to do the same thing for you. But that's how you know when you're there with that person that all you want to do is make sure that person's happy. I'm not talking about kiss their ass. I'm talking about what can I do to make your day a little bit better today. Period. Like, if you can do that, that means that's the person for you. You try to at that point change your pride. If you see that there's some things that you need to work on, like people told me, I talk too much. I'm arrogant. I lose jobs a lot. Hey, maybe somebody's telling the truth. And let me start looking in
for sure
on what those things are. And let me see if I can change maybe one aspect of the things that I'm doing. If I honestly feel like, again, because you don't have to feel that you're that person. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you're going to run into either somebody's going to keep, either it's going to be true or you're going to keep, in my case, losing jobs. Losing jobs. And you're going to lose friendships. So now I try to listen more than I talk. I try. Doesn't always work.
Man.
Yo, my name is Deandre Official, and right now you're tuning in to the I Am Him podcast.
All right. So I have a question for you, Dre. Or you don't mind if I call you Dre, right?
Mm-hmm, that's cool.
So, as a man, what generational problems have you had that you're working on yourself to make sure that you don't pass them along to your sons or your children in general? What problems or traumas have you had growing up that would say, hey, that's not something I want to give to my family. I need to probably change that or work on it.
Yeah, I would say for me, the very first thing is, being there. And not just being there, but being there and being present at the same time. Because I've seen both sides not work out. So I grew up without my dad in my life. I knew who he was, but we only talked on occasion. Like my first time I remember meeting him, I was like 6 years old. And, he just told me, come here, put on some clothes, we're about to go and meet your other siblings. That was like...
that was it? Like, hey, son, how you doing? Long time no see. Nah, just get dressed, time to go.
Time to go.
like he just been there.
Yeah.
Like he just seen you this morning. Like, okay.
So it was rough, growing up without him, only having small talk. And I didn't realize later in my life, in my adult life, until I ended up in therapy, that like one of the main things I wanted to hear him say to me was like, I'm proud of you. I never heard that. You know what I mean? And when you have small talk and they just ask you about, well, how's school going? Okay, well, do I need to send another check? Stuff like that. You never get around to things that you're actually interested in, So one of the things I want to make sure is that, like, I help my sons, like, discover their identity, discover their gifts, you know what I mean? And hold on to that because that's why I feel like I had to search and find all my life. And so my dad passed away when I was 22. And we were living in different states, and he got sick. And when he got sick, immediately I got angry. The first thing to be honest, what I really wanted to do was go and cuss him out before he passed. I'm really being honest. That's really how I felt. And that's because over the years, our conversations were okay. But over the last couple of years, when I got older, they got bad because I was more aware of what my actual family dynamic was like. That, you know, I was poor with a single mom, you know what I mean? And you're over here and we don't have anything. And one of our last conversations before he got sick was him telling me that, you know, I didn't graduate from school on time. So having to do an extra year of school meant he had to pay an extra year of child support. And he was upset about that. And I was like,
That's crazy.
you've never helped me with a math problem. How can you get mad about me having to do school over again and actually verbalize that, you know? So I got really upset and I couldn't forgive him at the time. And when he got sick, I was informed that he was sick, and you know, I really prayed. I feel like God told me to go see him. You know, go see him, go talk to him. And I went and I saw him and I talked to him. Like I said, I have other siblings also that he had. So my anger was.
See you? Did he want to see you? Like, did he reach out to you?
He never reached out to me. He didn't. I don't remember being requested to come. You know, my family members just came and told me, "Oh, your dad's sick, so you might want to come see him, and it's getting bad fast." You know, so I went, and you know, my anger was not just for me, but also because I felt like he didn't take care of my other siblings too. He had 6 kids and all, and he wasn't really present in none of their lives. And I have an older sibling that was in jail for life, and I blamed him. You know what I mean? Because he had another parent that passed away, and my dad didn't step in and take care of him. So I blamed him for that. But when I got to see him, like in his sickness, I had a moment of actually, you know, talking to him, and I forgave him. You know what I mean? I told him about everything that I felt, and he was so sick, he had made it to the point where he couldn't respond verbally, like he couldn't talk. So even though he couldn't respond verbally, you know, he just squeezed my hand. He let me know, like, I hear what you're saying, you know? And so when it comes down to my sons, I still sometimes, you know, from random stories from my mom, discover things like about their dynamic and about their relationship. You know, from a child's point of view, it's just dad wasn't there. That's the only thing I could think of. But as I got older, was like hearing like, oh, y'all had an apartment, getting ready to move in with each other when he found out you was pregnant, but then never showed up after that. You know what I mean? Like things, I didn't know these things, you know what I mean, until I got older and started to hear some of those things. And I do feel like, you know, one of the first things I did to break the tradition, and this is a tough one, but my youngest son, I was, you know, with him when I was there for all my children's births. But my youngest son, that was the only son that the doctors allowed us to cut the umbilical cord. And so I cut the umbilical cord. I called my mom, you know, I'm telling her, I'm like, hey, I got the chance to cut this umbilical cord. Like, I'm excited, I'm happy about it. And she's like, no, that's great. And she was like, you know, I'm proud of you for being able to do that because your father didn't cut yours, you know. He said he was going to be there at the hospital, but, you know, he never showed up, you know. That made me happy and sad at the same time. It gave me joy that I did it, but it hit me in my heart. You know what I mean? Like that actual, her telling me that story is what made me like break down and go to therapy all the way. I was like, hey, I think I need something. You know what I'm saying? Because there's more to unpack that I didn't know, you know? And so, you know, being proud of them, giving them identity, I think that's important because I feel like I had to search and find mine. You know, I dealt with, you know, depression a whole lot growing up as a kid. Also, you know, I think the other thing I want to be able to show my sons is, you know, how to really love and maintain a marriage. to maintain a relationship with a woman, because seeing my mom single, you know, growing up and witnessing that, you know, besides however she is in relationships personally, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know everything about that. But I do know that I always wanted a unit growing up. I wanted to see mom and dad, you know what I'm saying, in the house. So I wanted to be able to provide that. And to piggyback off of something that you said a little bit earlier, it triggered it, because part of my motivation to love my sons is my wife also. I think she deserves to see a father inside the home. You know what I mean? I think she deserves to see a man raising up other young men, you know what I'm saying, in the right way. So
Don't put that responsibility on her.
yeah, you know. So I want to be able to you know, show them that also. I just did a performance recently over the weekend. Hearing my son being in the crowd going, "Daddy, Daddy," like that's everything to me. You know what I mean? It means everything to me.
Yeah.
So within myself, I make sure, you know, I did the work of going to therapy. I also, you know what I mean, I'm a man of faith, and you know, I take those principles very seriously. I really practice them in my life. So those are like two of the main things that I made sure to do to make sure that like I'm being the person that I wanted to be. Thank you. To being the person that I wanted to be, or that I want to be, you know, for my sons.
Quick question. So I wanted to touch on the comment you made about wanting to know and talk to your father. I don't remember quite what it was, but I do remember the feeling that it gave me was that I wanted to know who my father was as a kid too, or wanted to know, just to talk to him, like to know his life, like who, like you said, that like, hey dad, the little stuff, like, hey, how was school today? How was your
Yeah.
life? Or what'd you do today? Like, how was work that? So I wanted to say I can understand that longing and that yearning, that feeling of wanting to have your father, just to have regular conversations and understanding how important that is to pass on to your current children. And because as you stated, my kids do the same. They just want to be by me sometimes. They don't even want me to say anything, do anything. They just literally want to sit up under me. I'm on the couch. I got one of my daughters over here, my son over here. My other son is laying on the top of the couch.
That's
Like for real, bro. And they're just sitting there, all on their games, doing whatever. I'm trying to adjust here and there to get comfortable, but all they want to do is sit next to me. So I can truly understand and relate to that, of wanting that yearning of just wanting to know who and where your father is, just to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, and I think, you know, my youngest son is like that. My middle son, he's autistic, so he's not very verbal, but he just is around me like you. So he's probably like on top of the couch or like, but he's laying around me. But my youngest son, he's like under me. You know what I mean? Repeating everything that I'm saying, trying to take out the trash. He's only 3 years old. He's just trying to do every single thing, you know, that I'm doing. And like you said though, when you don't have that growing up, you kind of don't know what you are. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm proud to be there with him, because like you're gonna know what you are. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna know how to have responsibility, because you get to actually see it up close. You know what I mean? Where I didn't get to see it up close, and I know that it's gonna be a moment where I had to tell him like, yo, I'm making it up as I go. I didn't have this. I didn't have this. You know what I mean? So I want you to even take this to the next level when you get older.
Yeah, that's true. Is like you said, I grew up in that same little dynamic. No father, mama raising us. I'm telling you, most of my friends that I grew up in that dynamic.
Yeah, most of mine too.
I don't know too many. I can probably count on one hand the amount of friends or people I knew growing up that had both their
Had
mom
both.
and dad still married in the house, or whose dad wasn't on dope somewhere. Like literally, probably on one hand. So I definitely can relate.
Yeah.
So, Coach, I had a question for you. Was there ever a time you had to like mend your relationship with your children?
Yes, every time you break up, you have to mend your relationship. So, which is why I love your story, right? Because there's things you learn on both sides, and so you guys were able to heal, and so you're showing them what it looks like to kind of, go through a problem and go through a solution. Which a lot of times I think, especially growing up, a lot of things are hidden from you as a child, right? And so mommy and daddy be fighting, you don't see them make up, so you actually don't learn how to dynamically communicate with a person to heal, right? And so you going through that actually showed your sons that. So if they ever hit a wall, right, they'll know, okay, well, if dad made it through, I can make it through. So, and going back to your question, because I've been married a few times, and so each time, like, I've had kids, when you break up, the breakup is one thing, but, that's something that I still struggle with today because you broke the home, right? And I put it all here, like I'm supposed to be able to maintain that space. And then when you come from a background where everybody stayed married in the family, whether it's the grandfather, the uncles, like I don't know the dynamics of the relationship, but I know they stayed together. That creates a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Because it's like, fuck, I'm the only one who just like can't seem to get this right. And so when I can remember different moments where I remember breaking up, and one of the things that I had to remember is like, let me have this conversation with these young men or this young lady. Like, this is not their fault. Because sometimes when they don't know what's going on and all of a sudden you just split spill, which is how my relationships ended. It wasn't like this dramatic thing. It was just like, dad is here one day and now he's gone because they don't know what the hell's going on in the relationship. I've had to approach it from not from defending myself, but like sharing with them, like, hey, this is not your fault, like that this is happening. Because again, me growing up, sort of like you guys, dad was sort of in and out doing whatever his thing was. He wasn't present. I had a lot of resentment, bitterness, anger, things like that. And so I was really doing my best not to become my dad, because I had to stay present as well. And so that's really my saving grace. I was able to stay present. But the only thing I really had to do was just have the conversations with them. But I realized over time, one of the things I did, especially as they've gotten older, I've given them these unfiltered moments. Whereas I sort of removed the titles, right? I'm a human who's 50 years old.
Oh, interesting.
They're human that's 18. Let's talk about like what you're really feeling, right? And so when I gave them that space to be like really unfiltered and just like have a conversation as men, that's when I learned about the anger and they're mad at me, the things that they carry. And so going back to what you said, it was very difficult to kind of sit through that because as a dad, I'm like, oh, I'm doing okay, right? Paid a ton of child support, right?
Yeah.
I showed up when I can because, again, when you start to pay these things, you have to now make up your money. And, of course, making up money means you eliminate the time with them. So it was a difficult space. But when I had those conversations with them, that's when I realized, oh, these guys got some anger, right? Towards me for what I did, irregardless of like what was happening. And so saving that space for them kind of allowed us to really mend the relationship beyond me just saying, hey, son, okay, I'm breaking up and here's why it's not your fault, blah, 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 right? Now it's like, hey, dad, you should have been here. Here's all the blank spots that have occurred and, where I feel like you messed up or dropped the ball. And they don't want to hear anything about me working. They don't want to hear nothing about no child support. They don't want to hear nothing about why it didn't work out. It's like,
You weren't there.
Yeah. And so, for me, it's been a continuous healing journey, and so we've gotten to the point where like the love and the respect is there, and they sort of, I guess, look at me like, I don't want to say Superman, but like a hero again. And that's kind of the big thing. So when you talked about just the hurt, right? Again, I could relate to that because I'm like, like my daughter, she let me have it. Right, she did not like me for a long time. But I didn't know that. Like I could sense it. Like as a dad, you always know. I'm like she was kind of frosty.
You got a problem.
Yeah, so, but I always like I was like, this is not their responsibility to heal the relationship, but it's mine, right? And so I took my lumps,
In doing those conversations where it's like heart to heart, I don't know if you ever realize it's like. For kids, we'll see our parents like, we'll idolize, we'll demonize, and then eventually go to humanize. For me, at least with my dad, I never got to really like feel like humanized with him.
Yeah.
Because he passed away definitely a little too soon.
Yeah.
But having those heart to hearts, do you think your kids have been able to humanize you like more so, like get to know who you are.
Oh, for sure. And I've been way more forward just because I realized, again, we talking about historically how people pass stories down and through storytelling. I was like, these people don't know anything about me, right? And so, even if you're raised, it was like, wait a minute, let me just tell you about me, right? Here's where I work. Here's what I did. Here's what I've done. Like, just here's how I've overcome. So to answer the short answer is yes. And I know that because I've just through the years of healing, they come to me with everything. Some of the stuff they bring to me, I don't want to hear, right? Because it's like, okay. But again, because I've created a safe space, they've forgiven me. They love me. I love them. They will tell me things first before they even tell their mom. And keep in mind, the moms are the primary like caregivers because they, again, when you break up, I don't know what it's like in any other culture, but Black cultures, they end up with the mom by default. And so, again, it's never even a question. It's just true. It's never a question, and they just, just okay. You just sort of accept it as a guy. Although that's one thing I wish I would have done differently, but that's another story. And so, just through time, like that's really all it is. It just keeps showing up, just like kind of what Jamaal said. And that's the hard part, understanding that if I keep showing up, doing the right thing, they'll eventually come around. Because I think at the heart of it, like with any of us who grew up without a dad, if they would have just showed up and said, hey, I'm sorry, and just kept showing up, eventually we would have forgave them. Because the love is so intense. Like I was a daddy's boy and he wasn't even around.
Me too, bro. Me too. My dad couldn't do no wrong till I was 16.
And yet he did all the wrong. My dad was like,
same thing with me.
Yeah. And so, just learning that lesson from my own experience, I was like, okay, let me make sure I save space for them.
I still protect mama though, but like dad was like, why you talking like I'll bust a nigga up talking about my daddy. My mama like, don't talk about my mama, but you say one thing about my daddy.
Yeah. So I think healing is a continuous thing, like because there can be certain triggering points, things like that. Like my daughter, she was in. I don't know. She blamed me for something. She made a decision about something. It was like, if you were there, then I wouldn't have made this decision. And I was like, you made that decision, but I'm going to take the brunt of this, right? And so, because, again, one thing is sometimes you just got to listen. You know? And I realized that if I am there, she's probably going to still make the same decision. But in her world, and so I try not to kind of fight those. I try not to argue with her, but in my world, I'm like, accountability is a thing, right? And so, but again, I just didn't want the sins of the father to be visited on the kids. And it's like you got to show them something different. Yeah. And so I've sacrificed a lot to make sure that they're well adjusted as best they can, because again, if we all know, like trauma just sort of follows you until you resolve it. And so I spent a solid 3 years in therapy, 2.5 years actually, just. Again, at one point I had 2 therapists because I was like, let me really resolve me, because I can't show up for them in the way I'm supposed to unless I know who I am, right? Yeah. And so, which is why like self-awareness is so important to me. And so I talk a lot about that with like just men, but my sons in general. Like, because I'm like, if you understand who you are, know you, then it becomes easy to be a dad, to be a business person, things like that. But, just the healing, the mending, it's a continuous thing. I'm James Thomas, and welcome to the I Am Him podcast.
Edmond,
yes.
From a son's perspective, how has growing up with a father in the home shaped you?
It's interesting because I don't get me wrong, like I love my dad. He's passed away now for like he's been gone for 4 years now. And what's interesting is realizing like the shoes that I have to fill now. Because when he passed away, I kind of had to become the man of the house now. And
that's tough.
Yeah, I kind of realized what he was teaching me, and now like what I'm learning is a lot different when it's in action, or like when you're actually doing it. But it's getting there, to be honest. Like paying for the house, making sure the family stays together and whatnot has been an interesting adjustment for sure. But having my dad there definitely giving me the examples, like how to treat people with respect, how to make sure to keep in contact with your family, make sure the family stays together, has been amazing. Like, I miss him a lot, but I really want to make sure our family stays together.
Yeah.
Do you feel any pressure, like, fulfilling that role?
That's what I was going to say.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Because it's weird having, like, actual responsibilities now. Like, it's not like the kid stuff anymore where it's like, oh, I got homework or I just got. It's real stuff
it's
now.
the real deal, for sure.
And it's like, oh, I got a $2,600 house payment now to make. Bills.
That's wild.
Yeah. So being a dad, I can't even imagine what it's like being responsible for another human life, the next generation. Because at least for myself, I'm just like, this is intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about just the people that now you're responsible for, where you feel this leadership has been thrust on you, right? And so like you're not obviously your dad now, and so there's a different respect level, right?
Yeah.
And so how has that been? Because that has to be a lot to deal with too.
It was weird because I know at first I wanted to reject it because like I'm trying to fill his shoes, but I'm not him.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with my sister, and it came out to I was like, I'm not him. I'm not my dad. And I could see in her face, she's like, oh, it's like, she's like, oh, it's like he is gone, you know?
Yeah. I imagine the expectation at that, like, to try to step in and fill somebody's shoes where, like, the whole world is used to them being a certain way. And now, okay, now you go do that. And the mental scrutiny you might be giving yourself, because it's like, how do I live up to this, whatever that standard was, right?
Yeah. Because he made sure the family stayed together. He made sure we all had something to eat. He made sure, like, he went out to work. He did amazing. Like, he was amazing. And at least under my guise now, it seems like I'm kind of falling way short.
So it sounds like you had like the practicality of being able to see how he moved. Was there anything like intentionally that he was like, I gotta show you this, you know what I mean? Because you're gonna be a man one day, or I gotta put this, I gotta tell you this, you know?
One of his main things for me, because this was kind of embarrassing. It was more like I was kind of jealous of other people at the time. I was like, they have a car, they have a girlfriend, they have something else going on. The one thing that he told me that made me shut up like instantly was, so what, you're jealous of their bills?
Wow.
I was like, you know what? That's a good point. I'm not jealous of that. So pretty much having common sense was like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. Like, don't overthink it. Don't like, just don't overthink it. That's been the interesting part.
Yeah.
And the hardest part.
Yeah. Because I imagine that being able to have seen him makes you want to overthink it often. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to be an exact replica. Mm-mm. And I know it's going to be a temptation to want to do that, to compare yourself consistently.
The harder part when comparing or trying to compare myself to him, which I don't want to do, is because he was also going through a 13-year battle with cancer and still being the man of the house and still like doing everything. Like, I can't be up to that. Like, but I'm going to try.
Yeah. See, I like that. I'm going to try. Like, I'm going to try. Yeah.
Do your best.
And do you have like siblings under you?
No, so I'm actually the youngest.
You're the youngest?
Yeah. So I'm 26. My older brother is 29, and my sister is going to be 40.
Oh, wow. Do you feel like they process it the same way of like having to step up after his death?
Think because I still live at home with my mom, if it's different. Because my brother's out in Missouri, and my sister lives out in Rialto.
Oh, they already moved out?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So now I just take care of the house with my mom and my aunt. So.
Yeah. So I feel like out of all the positions, yours is the most reflective of what you saw, because you're still with the mom. You're still actually taking care of the same people he was taking care of. Yeah,
it's been interesting because like seeing people change and grow while still being in the same house, it felt like I kind of got left behind, which was kind of a weird thing, which only recently I'm starting to like get over.
How you feel like you got over that?
Basically, when you hit rock bottom, it feels like when you're like just crying, it's like, okay, it's like the come to Jesus moment. It's like, I'm not doing the right stuff right now. I gotta do better for my family. So now I'm going to school for respiratory therapy, getting a higher paying job, and at least be able to cover the house payment in full now instead of just, 99% of it? 90%. But who knows? I'm just trying to take care of the family.
Yeah.
For the most part.
So Dre, you had a question for Coach?
Yeah. I wanted to know, is it easy to, walk into a level of transparency when your children maybe are doing some of the things that you did when you were younger? Is it easy to kind of be like, I did those same exact things. I was there too.
Man, that's a tough question. I mean, I relate for sure. It makes it easy to have a conversation, less critical. So I think it goes back to what I said earlier, because I've given them the freedom, like, to create that transparency. I'm like, let's strip away the titles, right? They know I'm dad. I know they're sons or daughters, but you're a person who's 22 making these decisions. I'm a person who's 50. I've been along. Let's just have the conversation. And so what that's allowed them to, couple things. They feel heard, right? They feel like there's a level of trust there. And so now it's not just, this dude telling stories. Well, in my day, we wouldn't have did blah, blah, blah. So, and again, I'm not necessarily trying to kind of relate and be their friend, but I do want them to feel heard. And part of that is I project a lot. I grew up with my grandparents. And with that generation, kids, seen and not heard. You don't have a voice. You don't mean nothing. You're just a piece of meat that work around or do whatever you're told, right? And so, again, there's a high level of respect. And so it's easy to just sit down and say, okay, what's your issue? Oh, that's nasty work. I don't even like what I'm hearing, but I can relate. And so their safety from me is like they won't feel judged, even if it's like the worst thing ever. And sometimes it has been the worst thing ever. Like the stuff, as men, we're a little biased, right? Because a daughter can come with something and a son can come with something. And the daughter's like, I don't want to really hear this right now. And so I could tell you guys stories. I've ended up at people's houses like, hey, we got some problems right now, right? Literally, right? People didn't want to come out, right? Like I had to deal with some people, right? But again, the fact that she was able to come to me and just like share like what is a very embarrassing moment for her, right? Where she felt safe enough to say, hey, Dad, I've put myself in a very compromising position. I need your advice, right? That's the best part. And so that's kind of how we kind of deal with those.
And I'll just say I really appreciate that because, like I said, I didn't get a chance to ask my dad who he was. But hearing stories about him and knowing that I lived almost the exact same life before I got a chance to forgive him helped me forgive him. Yeah. So it's good that you're there to actually still be there to say, like, yeah, I did those same things.
Oh, man, I'm so lucky. Like, this, like, if I never do, and I feel like I'm doing some pretty good stuff in the world right now. Like, I'm making very responsible decisions. But, like, they're the highlight, right? And it's not just them. It's just the work that I've done, the forgiveness, the love that they've shown. Like, they make me feel like, okay, I made a whole lot of mistakes, but there's grace, right?
Yeah.
There's opportunities to forgive, to be better. And so that's why I'm always rooting for, like, especially relationships with men and their sons, daughters, whatever. I'm like, just keep showing up. You don't know how many men I meet who just like to just detach and distant. And I'll be praying, like, just like, because as men, I know what it feels. I just long for my father. Like, dude, just show up, right? Just say I'm sorry and that's it.
Just show up.
Just show up. Man.
Just say I'm sorry and
literally.
that's it. So it's like, because I know the feeling, I'm like, I'm always there. Sometimes I overcompensate, so I have to pull back. But man,
So,
Thank you, man.
One thing that to hit that same note, it becomes a lot easier to talk to your children when they get older, especially start going through some of their own relationship issues or
100%.
working and having to get up and pay bills. Once my sons started becoming responsible men, quote unquote, living out on their own, dating their own girlfriends or whatever, they were able to relate to some of the things that I did or some of the ways our relationship or the dynamic, they understood our relationship a little better. They understood why I did certain things when they were younger or why and how some of the arguments can start between spouses when you be like, oh, it's just, what's wrong? What's the problem? This is why you mad at mom. Like, now you got a girlfriend. You see what it is, bro. So you can understand the dynamics of relationships or having to pay a bill. You working 40 hours a week, and Uncle Sam and Fika coming through and like, who's Uncle Sam and Fika? Who's this Fika person that's taking? And yeah, so or having to pay car insurance and understanding that it ain't just rent. It's more than just rent. It's utilities, it's food, it's gas, it's everything else. It's being an adult. So all of that, I want to get out and be on my own and have my own place and all of that shit. Sounds great.
Yeah, till it happens.
Take it back. Take it back.
And I guess for you, you just have to be patient enough to let life bring them back to you. You know what I mean?
So when you get older, it does. When they get older, it makes it a little easier to have some of those conversations with them. For sure. So when they're young, they're gonna have a whole lot of stuff that you're gonna want to defend yourself about. Be like, but you don't. But. And then you're gonna have to just eat it and like wait till you get. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait.
Man, you know they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, so it's really a badge of honor, like, for real. Because what it's saying is like I've paid attention to mom and dad, seeing what they're going through. So it's like, Dad, I'm going through this thing, right? And so to me, like when your kids come to you, like it really is a badge of honor. That's when I felt the best. I'm like, okay, they need something, right? Because again, as they get older, they become more independent, less needy, right? And especially if you haven't been like fully connected the whole time. And so no matter what it is, that just means they've been paying attention, And so they get that responsibility, but they come to you like, you're the wise person. Yeah. So it's like, hey, Dad, can you tell me about this thing here? So it hit different. My daughter don't want to spend no money because she realized how hard she works, right? And how quickly it goes. So it's like when I'm like, don't you have money? She's like, yeah, but I want to spend your money.
Yeah, Dad, you're supposed to take care of me until he do.
We're not going to talk about the new adults who want to be adults and kids at the same time, but that's a whole nother story.
Let's go ahead and take a break real quick so we can go ahead and we'll be back and we'll introduce our next guest who just showed up. Yeah, I know it was like a work of the camera vision and, movie magic, but we got a new guest on our panel. We'll be back and we'll introduce who he is in a second. See you soon.
Cool.
What up, y'all? This is Ronnie Howard. I'm back again. You are tuning in to the I Am Him podcast.
All right, Ronnie, I have a question for you. What has shifted your perspective on women since you've been raising daughters?
Oh man, I think going back to when I was a teenager, I lost my mom when I was 15, as I said on the last show, I believe, and so I felt like I missed out on a lot of knowledge that I needed from a woman's perspective. I think I missed out at those crucial ages because my mom, she wasn't really. It's like, the older generation, they felt like embarrassed to talk to us about certain things. Mm-hmm. So when you're growing up, you need those conversations. So I felt that I didn't get to have those conversations about women, sex, nothing with her. I missed that. So not knowing, who am I learning from if my mom is not here? I'm learning from the world, right? So having daughters has kind of made me reprogram my mind. Before that, I had sisters too, and all that too. But it's something about being a father to daughters to girls, and it makes you value women different. I think that one of the main things are the respect. Now I look at these youngsters, and I know I was doing certain things and listening to certain music, but I don't even like to hear like music that disrespects women anymore.
You can't even hear the songs no more.
I promise, like I can't. Even the stuff that I grew up on, like Snoop and Dre, Big Things, Bells and Tricks. Like when I hear that song, I just be like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, you know what I mean. So my daughters have taught me. I guess I've become somewhat of a feminist because they have. Our conversations, they have switched my ways of thinking. I never knew about toxic masculinity. When I heard that term, I was defensive. And as talking to my daughters, I kind of like understood the perspective now. So I understand now being a single father, raising these children as a primary provider. That also helped me look at women differently because women have been doing this for years. They've been carrying the homes for years. And now everything makes sense differently. Like I know the struggles of a single mother because I played that role. Now, a lot of people that were judging all these children that came from these single mother homes and these girls that didn't have no daddy around, that was raised by their moms, those situations make so much sense now because I'm playing this role and I understand how tough it is on the parent and tough it is on the child. So having girls have made me look at women differently, made it a duty for me to want to be good to women, to all women, but you know, in particular, you know, my daughters, you know, I want to be a good example for them. So it's really changed the way I respect and look at women. I think women are the stronger sex. That's a deeper conversation, but I mean, just these conversations that I've had with them, having these transparent conversations with them, and being open, keeping an open mind, and shifting my way of thinking. It definitely makes you want to be a lot differently than we grew up. You know, just being young and dumb. You know, young and talking to people, talking to women crazy, and you know, all that stuff is out the door. And I have a son too, so that's their brother. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want my son to grow up and be one of those kids that disrespects and treats women wrong. So I try to teach him better than I was and let him understand you have sisters. Do you want anyone to treat your sisters the way that you can treat women? You're going to be ready to hurt somebody. And that's the hypocritical part about us. We'll disrespect women all day and do all this stuff. But the second someone do the same thing to our mama or one of our sisters, we ready to go up.
Yeah.
But bro, how can you get mad when you treat women this way and talk to them this way and talk to them that way, but get mad when somebody do it to yours? So now that's a selfish way of thinking. Only your mom is important. That's the only important woman in the world. So that's where we get it twisted. I didn't mean to give you that long answer, but it's just a loaded answer I had to. I got more, but I'm you know what I mean?
Do we have time for a follow up or? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point though. Like when it's your family, it's like,
oh, that's so wrong. I'm ready to kill you.
yeah,
You told my mama a beat because
like,
you call women bitches every day.
Yeah, because like for me, I'm on the other like where you were before. I'm not on the other side of like when you put it like that. I was like, oh yeah, like I didn't realize like damn I am part of the problem. Like I didn't realize it. I'm like, oh.
It's big of you to admit that because that's what made me do it. I'm like, after a while in speaking, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a bit hypocritical.
Yeah. I was like,
you know what I mean? Like, you got to look at yourself.
Yeah, I think I had one of them exact conversations with one of my male students recently. He's a high school student, and he, said a very derogatory statement about all women. And I was like, so you feel that way about your mom? And he was like, well, that's different. And I was like, no, it's not.
Why is it different?
It's not
you know what I'm saying? Like,
she's still a woman.
She's still a woman.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why is it different? It's so crazy to hear.
But we really think like that.
Yeah,
I really thought like
twisted
that too.
thoughts. Like, only my mama is important. Somebody call your mama a B word, you ready to slice their neck.
Yeah.
But you call every woman around you in the streets B words. You got guys. See, this is a thing. Another part of that question, how, like especially with black women being young and growing up in some of the rougher areas. They go to the store, and a guy asks for their number. They could respectfully decline. How does the guy act when she declines? F you then, B, you dirty dog head. B. Like, let somebody talk to your mama like that. You ready to bring the whole hood up there and spray up the whole parking lot.
Yeah. But when I was young, I thought that was funny.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean? I thought it was funny to cuss a girl out if I seen somebody do that. Yeah.
Let somebody cuss a daughter out. Oh, where are you at? I know I am. I did it before. I did it before. Some little boy called my daughter a B at school, and this probably was wrong, but whatever. I creeped up on him in the car, and I told him, I said, these ain't the ones. You talk to my daughter like that, I'm going to come find you. I might have gotten in trouble for that, but what?
It was wrong, but it was the right thing.
You feel me? I'll go to jail for my daughters. Like, you're not finna do that to mine. Yeah. You little boys out here, I don't play with these little boys. No, you're not doing it to mine. And I encourage my son, when I'm not around, you don't allow it. Your friends and your friends better not be doing that.
Yeah.
I'll pull you out of everything. You won't be hooping. You won't be doing nothing. You be wearing Payless. You won't be doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? You be wearing Kmart's shoes. No Tim's for you, buddy.
Yeah.
You better learn how to respect now.
Well, I have a question for you, man.
Yes, sir.
How has dating been? I grew up in a single mother household, and I was almost ready to fight guys that came home sometimes. So how has dating been for you, being a single dad? Like,
Man, that's a great question. So I think it was the other question you guys were talking about. In my head, I was thinking, I understand my dad. Like, my mom passed when I was 15, so it's a lot of things I was mad at my dad about. Like, dang, man, like, why did you, man, you could have done, in my head, you could have done this better. You could have done, where were you on this situation? And now as a man, when I'm put in a situation where I'm raising kids, as a sole provider, I understand. Daddy had to go get his rocks off. Daddy had to go, he had to go on dates. He had to go. He lost his wife of 20 years. So he had to, I understand a lot now where he was and how trying to balance, being a father and working and having a bit of a social life. So for me, it's been kind of a struggle because I had girls. I don't want to just bring anyone around my girls. They're going to like her. Their mom is they're not having a strange relationship with her. So I don't want to bring another female in the house and make them feel even more weird. So I had a couple of situations and didn't work out. But after that, I said, I'm chilling. I'm gonna wait.
just gonna chill for a
I'm
while.
gonna wait. It's as far as bringing people around.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I like to go out and have a good time and do stuff like that. But as far as bringing somebody around them, that's out. Like, my kids are pretty much almost there. I got one graduating this year. My oldest daughter graduated last year. My son will be 16. So
Wow.
I'm at the finish line. So I'm not tripping. I'm not in a rush. I'm only 41. So I figure by the time I'm 45, I get in something solid, and that's gonna be my partner until I stop breathing.
Yeah, man.
How does your daughters? I know that I just became a dad of girls. I just adopted or in the process of adopting 2 little girls, and the jealousy, especially with, even though she's not mine, my little girl, my baby, she be fighting for attention with my wife, and it's crazy. And my wife be like, I came first, and she be like, he still like me. I'm his favorite. Don't matter, I'm his favorite. And me as a dad and as a husband, I have to reinforce that, yes, I love you, but this is still my wife, and my wife comes before you. We have this is us, but I still love you. How did you handle that as a father, or did you even have to go through it?
You know what? That's a great question. When me and their mom was together, we never really had that issue. We had other issues, but that wasn't one of the issues. But when we separated and I started dating, they only met a couple people, and one of the situations, it was real. It got kind of real tense. It was a real weird time. COVID, and so it was a weird time. So they're transitioning, trying to figure themselves out, 12 or 13 years old, starting menstruals and all that. So girls are very, very sensitive around that time. So I wasn't trying to really push anybody on them, and the person that I had, they didn't like. So, you know what I mean? They respect it. But after a while, they was like, So I had to make a decision for me, like, and you know what that decision is. So,
Kids,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I had to make a decision whether I want to fight for this or whether I want to go ahead and have my kids be okay, and I chose that. So.
Yeah, that's having girls in the house. That sensitive thing, like you said, this is a new experience for me. I've helped raise 2 boys, me and my wife, and the earlier conversation, boys are different. They, like Coach said, you can just tell them, get it up, dust it off, throw some spit on it, and you good.
Yeah.
I remember telling my young daughter, she's 10 now, somewhere around there, but she's starting to hit that puberty stage. No, she's 9. 10? Okay. But she's already starting to smell in places, and I'm like, you're a little girl. You can't smell like that. So I was like, hey, you stink. you need to go get in the shower. And I said it like that, and she just started bawling. Her feelings were so hurt. Like, oh my God, you said I stink. Like, I just told her it's the end of the world.
Right.
So that, the sensitive being more, changing the type of tone that you have with your daughters, I'm learning too that it's a whole different ball game.
The delivery.
Raising girls.
Yes, sir.
Everything first off, they're all children and they watch everything I do.
Yes.
And like
Everything.
Coach was saying that kids, no, you were saying that kids you follow. He's in your shoes. Your 3-year-old.
Oh yeah.
He's in your shoes, following
everywhere
you,
I
wants
go.
to be you. And my daughter, I'm uncle. I'm going to work. And she takes her little bag and says, I'm going to work. I'll see you guys later. And my son, he does the same thing. And now I know I realize how being a father in your older age is a lot easier than being a father in your younger age. Or maybe not easier, but if you've already raised them when you were younger, and then you get another chance to do it again when you get older, a little bit older, you see the difference in why you did what you did, excuse me, when you were a young dad versus, I got a little bit of gray now. I take a little bit more time to think about situations versus reacting like that. And I'm not so much concerned of what other people have to say about my parenting style. And that being a younger kid, I was current, you shouldn't let them do this or you shouldn't let them do that. And allowing other people in my marriage to help raise my children.
And there's so many voices.
It was a point of contention in my relationship, I must say. So that portion alone, just being able to keep people out of your marriage and out of how you raise your children, it's such a stress reliever. So if knowing it now and keep other people out of your relationship if you can. I'm telling you.
Or just had that, I don't know, I just had a crazy mentality, I would say, because I felt after my mama died, I was like, man, ain't nobody about to tell me nothing. So I never cared about what people thought about my parenting style. Like, I never cared. Like, I'll do this alone, but I'm about to do this my way. I'm going to take, and it's not on no trying to be hard or tough type stuff, but I know what I paid attention to with my parents. I know the mistakes that they made, and I want to try to do better. So, and I look at the results. Like, no one knows my children, but I get the same compliments from everybody about them, and that's the greatest gift ever. I don't care about the success or achievements, but did I raise 3 decent human beings? And I did.
Wow.
My kids are all wonderful people, like, love them, like they're wonderful people. So that's all I could ask. What they achieve and all that stuff, that's the icing on the cake. But did I raise good human beings? I did. So, Ed, I got a question for you, brother.
What's up?
How do you view the way your dad loved your mom, and how do you feel it would impact you dating in the future?
Ooh. That's a good question. So, my dad, he loved my mom. Like, he really loved my mom. He wasn't afraid to show it. Through that, he was definitely able to show, like, how much he loved his kids. Like, because he was supportive as heck. Like, he would show up to my sister's band meetings for color guard, all that. Like, he'd always show up, all the time. And for my mom, he provided for her. He had a pretty good job that made sure that he was able to pay for the house, pay for everything. He served his country, make sure like he can be there.
Military man.
Yeah. That's why I always show up like early on time. Like, I'm never late. Hate being
It's
late.
in you.
Yeah. He taught me that one
I
like
feel you,
hard.
bro. Same here.
Yep.
But definitely through what he's shown me, like I want to be able to show like I love this person who I'm gonna be dating. I want to make sure I'm there for them. Make sure that I'm probably gonna mess up, but make sure I don't let it affect me as much in the future, as much as I let it in the past so far. Because once he passed away, I've found myself to be more insecure now because I don't have him to lead me where to go.
I get it. He showed you how to live a good life.
Yeah.
He was your compass.
The one thing that actually kind of resonated with me that you guys had said was like when your kids are like around you. I remember doing. I still want. That's something I really want to do right now, is just be around them.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, like, I miss you. Like,
Right. Just one more day, huh?
yeah.
Do you find that today you would teach your daughters? So, meaning that, do you find that the way you love on people, or your spouse or your significant other, hinders how they feel about you? Meaning, a lot. I don't even say a lot of women today, but it because you express yourself and you want to show them love, and you try to give them your all. I've seen that certain women can't handle that. They think you as weak versus loving, instead of that, seeing that as a strength. Has that made your dating situation difficult? And do you see your daughter having that same like problem, or do you see that hopefully she look for somebody who's loving and not looking for the TV guy or the video guy or the rapper? So have you seen that it makes it difficult for you to date, or people to hold, or to have the women see you in that way?
For me, most of my insecurities are from like women, because I'm not really confident in myself when it comes to a lot of stuff, unfortunately. But I also know the right woman will let you down gently. If you ask her out, she'll let you down like a lady. If she's not the right woman, definitely won't be like that. But then you also know she's not the right one. But once I find the right one, I'm looking forward to it every day.
That's great.
And how it can affect the future when I have kids. As long as the guy is able to express how he loves and make sure that he's responsible to take care of her, I won't have any issue with him.
That's great.
When it comes to like the marriage between your mom and your dad, I know you got to experience some of it. You said you were pretty young when he passed.
So actually, he passed away about 4 years ago now.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got to be with them
Okay.
all 22 years. I'm 26 now.
So is there any attribute that you saw from your mom that makes you like, okay, he sought out a woman like that. I want to seek out a woman like that. Like my dad knew what he was doing with choosing.
So
her.
it's kind of funny. So my dad, when he went out with my mom, he said, "Hey, you're with me," like because she was talking to some other guy when they went on a date. But he was confident. Like he was like, "Hey, you're with me. I'm dating you. I'm gonna marry you." Like he was confident. So that's why I'm like, why can't I be like that?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, he just you. That's a select few that's confident like that.
Yeah. Well, he did it too.
You know what I'm saying?
That was
He did it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
But you said, how did my mom affect? Can you repeat it one more time? My apologies.
So was there any attributes you saw in your mom that made you feel like, okay, that's what I should look for in a woman, because this is what my dad sought out?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It was in particular towards the end, unfortunately. So my dad had a 13-year long battle with cancer. Started with his kidney, went to his arm, and then to his leg. But she stuck with him, like the whole time. Of course, there were spats, like you're dealing with something that's terminal, relatively speaking. And she stuck with him the whole time. If I can find a woman who's even half of that, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing to be able to see.
Understand? See, so my wife and I have been married for 25 years now. Well, it'll be 25 in August, and my story is rare in that I've been married for 25 years, and my generation they weren't expected to stay married more than 10 years. And now I think it's like 5. The average marriage or something like that lasts less than 10 years. So, but that not breaking up through the hard times, not just giving up, my wife was ready, well, not ready to walk, but my wife was like, I'm done, more than I ever was, or ever said. And I'm old school. Short of one or two things, I'm not getting a divorce. I'm not initiating it. You're gonna have to divorce me. But there ain't too much she as a woman can do for me to divorce her. That's just how I was brought up. And hook or crook, we're gonna be married because that's it. That's what it said through good and bad times. And nowadays, these young kids, they don't understand the difficult. Your father had cancer. By most people's definition, that's every right to divorce him. He's gonna die, or you should be happy. Why should you let this man drag you down or whatever? And I've seen too many relationships end over something like that. And that's the time when you're supposed to have the most dedication to your spouse.
The most love.
Those are the hardest times to deal with, and that you should be showing your comfort and support for your spouse, not walking away. It's crazy.
Because people aren't understanding marriage. That's why. Because just when you up there giving your vows, are you listening to what you're saying? Are you even paying attention to the words that are coming out your mouth?
I counsel married couples, and I think most
richer,
people
through
don't.
poorer, through all these sicker in health, all these things in these vows, and you say these things, and then the first thing, or the second thing, or the third thing that happened, you want to get a divorce. So
Now, I counsel married couples, and I think most of them don't. I don't think most of them know exactly what you.
And what the marriage really means.
Because of course, it's not going to look any way that you can paint. You know what I'm saying? You can't make up how the story is going to turn out.
Right.
But that's what vows are for. They're there regardless of what the new circumstances are going to be.
that part.
So to see for you to experience that, you said 13-year fight.
13-year long, yeah.
That's a long fight.
That is
And for her to stick there the whole time is amazing.
amazing.
You know?
For real.
Yeah. So you're going to be looking for somebody who has longevity, who knows how to stick around.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up for the day. We just wanted to thank all of my guests today. I got Ronnie, I got Edmond, and we got Dre, and we just wanted to say thank you all for spending your time with us and being open. And that'll be it for the I Am Him podcast. And thank you, and we'll see you all again.